Help support AMTV by becoming a patron, an AMTV staff member, and following us over on Twitter. Launching in 1997, Channel 5 became, fittingly, the fifth terrestrial channel to launch in the UK. It was quite the opening night, with the endorsement of a brand new song from the Spice Girls, then the biggest pop group on the planet. Channel 5's first 10 years on the air were filled with highs and lows, but during its 10th birthday, in 2007, it would premiere a brand new set of idents that we'll be looking at today. I'll be showing you a selection, and given their age, the video quality may vary. But to kick things off, let's head outside and gaze at some balloons.
Five returns to China as the battle for the world's strongest man gathers pace. At 8, now how a dying mining town was saved by a rather large flabby thing. With some remarkable footage, great ocean adventures. Heads for Mexico.
A nice serene way to kick things off. This sequence focuses on a bunch of white balloons being set off into the sky, a charmingly simple concept. As the battalion fly higher, we see a cluster of them begin to form the 5 logo, which at this point in time was stylized as lowercase letters. I've always personally preferred Channel 5 when its brand is just a number, but it's not the end of the world. The way the balloons cluster to form the lettering is quite nice, and it's also easy that it stands out to read, always a plus when you don't have the best vision such as myself. The music as well fits the mood. It's upbeat, inoffensive, complementing the visuals we see rather nicely. If I could offer any notes, it would have been interesting to see the balloons cluster into other shapes and objects alongside the 5 logo. I'm not sure whether this could mimic the clouds in the sky, or something perhaps relating to an upcoming programme, but I just feel we have a lot of space that could be better utilised throughout the ident. Nevertheless, this is a fairly solid start for the set. Let's see how things progress as we head down to the beach.
Elle's having flashbacks from the night of the rave accident in Neighbours in an hour. First, Law and Order on 5, where a taxi driver's last fare could have been the one that killed him.
This one is rather touching. We get to see a stunning view of the sea, with someone stood in the shallow end of the waves amongst the gradually setting sun. A friend rushes towards them, surprising them, before they both share laughter and joy amongst the crashing waters. I really like the concept for a number of reasons. It shows how you don't always have to have the most complex or intricate idea for an ident sequence, including its story. 2 people on a beach, messing around in the water, that's such a quintessential and relatable experience that millions can link with. Many of us have had this exact moment with friends or loved ones in the sea or on the beach, and to see it replicated here, the way it's shot and edited, is really rather stunning. I also like the early moments of calm. The image of this person looking out to the vast ocean really paints a picture of tranquility. Again, a very relatable feeling one can have when amidst the sea. My only major criticism would be of the 5 logo itself. Whilst it looks nice when it appears, I do find this one a bit more difficult to pick out, and it also seems to get obscured and disappear almost as quickly as it appears, which is a real shame. But on the whole, this is a well-shot, well-designed ident that takes a human experience and puts it across in one of the most relatable ways I've seen in quite a while, so kudos to Channel 5. But now, we'll retire from the beach, and perhaps head home on a bicycle.
Later at 8, we've a head-to-head between 2 of the car world's superpowers, plus an eye-popping array of motorbike tricks from the modern-day Evel Knievel. Fifth Gear is in half an hour after we ask, how do they do that?
A fun idea, but one with flaws. Like the ones before, the concept is rather simple and straightforward. A group of women cycling through the screens, perhaps going much faster than the camera leads us to believe, given the expressions on their faces. Whilst I don't mind a bit of slow motion every now and then, it could have been really exhilarating and exciting to see these women racing down the streets at top speeds, leading them to a slow-mo finish. What we have is fine, but with the vast majority of it at a snail's pace, I think it could lose the attention of the viewer rather quickly. The best bit of the ident is arguably when the 5 logo shows up. as we lose slow motion in favour of the bike wheel spinning and spinning at increasingly fast speeds, thus allowing us to see the Golden 5 logo plastered onto it. It does look rather nice here with that gold sheen, but like with the beach sequence, it seems to come and go too quickly. Just as you're taking it in, we're back to more shots of the women looking shocked as if they're going to crash into something. Humorous as that may be for a couple of seconds, it doesn't necessarily make the most interesting viewing for a whole 30 seconds. I think Bicycle is rather close to being a dud, but it's interesting enough to avoid that labelling from me. Let's see if things improve as we journey along and look out of the car window.
A year after their enormous move to Cornwall, George revisits a couple who wanted to build a new life in the country to see was it worth it. Tonight at 9. Now, a lady not known to compromise. House doctor, inside and out.
We're really drawing on relatable experiences here, aren't we? Car window, like beach, is another example of 5 utilising a scenario that will be extremely common to the majority of viewers, a method that can often yield positive results. We see a group travelling in a car, the passenger in the backseat winding down the window to gaze out at the view. Amongst that view, we see the 5 logo in the sky, made up by a cluster of clouds. To start positively, I think the mood, the cinematography, and the actual reveal of the 5 logo are all quite nice. It's a very relaxed vibe, very easy viewing, something that all of these idents thus far have shared. However, I do think the pattern starts to show its similarities. Whilst a relaxed vibe and energy is generally a good thing for a TV channel, to use it all the time sort of devoids it of much of the personality. What am I supposed to think about Channel 5 here? That it's a laid-back channel? Well, that's great, but what else, please? Also, the notion of the 5 logo appearing in the sky is practically the same as balloons, and quite frankly, I think that sequence did a better job overall. Not a bad ident, but one that starts to show the repetitions that exist within the set as a whole. We'll see if we spot any more of them on a skydive.
So Lincoln finally escaped from Fox River Prison. The question remains, however, did he escape dead or alive? Our Prison Break replay continues here on 5 Now, and don't forget the new series begins this Monday at 10.
God, this always looks like a lot of fun. The notion of a skydive is one that nowhere near as many of us would have experienced, or even want to experience. It may not be as relatable as beach or car window, but it carries a different appeal all in itself. Viewing a human jump out of a plane, plunging back down to earth is always an exhilarating sight to behold, and here is no exception. As the diver breaks through the clouds, we see amongst the vast green fields that the 5 logo has been carved out amongst them. That would be quite a view, falling back down to earth and all of a sudden, bam, you spot a TV channel's logo carved into the grass below. It looks really nice and clear, but similar to balloons, I wish we could have utilised the space a bit more, or panned the camera around the diver to show other interesting sights beyond the 5 logo. The music for this one also feels a little lackluster for the occasion. It's nice enough and does the job alright, but for such a feat as skydiving, I'd expect something a little more grand and epic in the audio department, though I respect that's just a personal preference. Great to see, though, that Channel 5 weren't afraid from straying away from the everyday style of idents for the set, a sentiment that is also arguably reflected in Flash.
If you like your action movies with a side of martial arts, don't miss Jet Li and Bridget Fonda later on 5 as they star in fast-paced Kiss of the Dragon. That's after a clash of the titans now on 5 with BMW versus Porsche in 5th gear.
An interesting idea, for sure. We see a group of the most 2007-looking people ever anxiously waiting for something, or someone. As they turn, they realise the object of their patience has arrived, and immediately whip out their cameras to take pictures, their adoration or intrigue reflected in the windows of a limousine-type vehicle. I must admit, when first viewing the ident, I genuinely wasn't sure as to whether this group were a bunch of fans, which is what I think they are, or a group of rabid paparazzi. You can forgive me for the latter, what with the immediate reaction to whipping out cameras and the like, but I think from the expressions, we can assume they're a group of fans. This is an experience very few viewers will have lived, but one they will have witnessed countless times in media. Therefore, I think the concept does work, as it still holds some degree of relatability for the audience, just a different strand of it. It's a very drab-looking sequence, however, with all the dark tones muting out any potential splash of colour that could occur. I also don't like the way the 5 logo appears. To only show up amidst the flash of a camera is very irritating and definitely not suitable for all viewers. Out of what we've looked at so far, Flash is arguably the ident where I feel the concept was solid, but the potential was sorely misguided. Just think of what you could do or achieve with this concept in a 30-second time span. But let's take a more sinister turn now as we walk down the corridor.
Half an hour left to enter our CSI Miami competition. Remember, it's the last one for a while. You could be our winner by the end of this CSI replay. So tonight in Vegas, there's a missing showgirl and a suspect with an unhealthy obsession. Catherine.
Bet you weren't expecting that. This is a long way away from the relaxing vibes of many other idents in the set, and I think that works to Corridor's advantage. We're from the POV of someone who's clearly nervous, their breathing indicating they're making their way through unfamiliar territory. As they move through the dimly lit corridor, we ponder as to what they may encounter, the answer to which we will never know. The 5 logo does appear, not too intrusively, and thankfully it doesn't spoil the eerie, tense mood that the sequence sets up. The lack of music and the creaking of doors amongst other sound effects further complement the horror aesthetic that this ident is so obviously aiming for. I love when mainstream channels like this take a dive into the scary and unnerving, rather than always playing it safe. And for Channel 5, it's paid off massively. It tells me a bit more about the channel's personality and what it has to offer, beyond the relaxing, accessible nature that it pushed for at this time. It's not the scariest ident in the world, not by a long shot, but for the lengths it does go to, it gets a positive nod from me. To continue with the darker pattern, let's step outside to witness the lightning.
Now on this Thursday evening 5 News and Ashes report with John Suchet.
Nice to look at, but is it that interesting? The natural event of lightning is fascinating to say the least, and people either love to witness it or absolutely hate and despise it. From the safety of your home, watching lightning on a TV screen can be quite the serene experience, but I'm not sure if this ident really works all too well. We see the strikes of lightning gradually tease us the 5 logo, before we get the odd flash where we can see the logo in full. And for the brief second that you see it, it admittedly does look quite cool. But like with the cameras in the flash sequence, it's far too quick. You don't get any time at all to really see or take in the logo in the setting. I don't really have a great deal more to say on this one. It's a nice idea for a concept, but ultimately, the execution comes off as frustrating and even a little boring, which is why hopefully in the next sequence we'll have a bit more risk with riding.
In an hour, 5's Wednesday night movie sees a millionaire's son kidnapped. There's a massive ransom required at 9. Now, big blokes lived hefty stuff in China, but who's the world's strongest man?
What was that? The theme is supposed to be risk, but all I'm seeing is a woman riding around on a horse, somehow making the word 5 appear in the dirt before riding off. Huh? I'm sorry, but this one really doesn't work for me. The concept could have legs, but you could mistake it for stock footage of someone riding a horse because that is literally all you see. The 5 logo is more difficult to see, and the music... What is going on with the music? Were they trying to make horse riding seem more exciting or extreme? Or perhaps more risky? Well, I tell you what, if that was the intention, then it really did miss the mark, wildly. Let's keep moving, and we'll take a trip to Ramsey Street to check in with our favourite neighbours.
Now, I do hope you're all paying attention because as from Monday, Ramsey Street has a new address. Neighbours is coming to 5, where now it's home and away, and Martha's in a turmoil.
Always loved tie-in idents. Neighbours was an Australian soap opera that launched back in the 1980s and became something of a phenomenon over here in the UK for several years. In 2008, it would debut on Channel 5, and despite being past the peak of its popularity, it still commanded a very loyal audience. And to promote the exciting arrival, this ident pans across the familiar setting of Ramsey Street, to entice and excite audiences for the Neighbours premiere on the channel. It's very simply done, panning over recognisable locations for the eager fans, but could they really not use the Neighbours theme tune as the music for this? The theme for the soap is one of the most recognisable of the last 50 years, so not using it for whatever reason to promote its debut on Channel 5 does seem like a bit of a misstep. The 5 logo itself does look rather striking in that bold yellow. Wish they'd use that a lot more often. But to really make this a sweet treat for fans, it would have been really cool if some characters of the day could have been more visible within the ident, rather than just the street they inhabit, or to add more variants set in different Neighbours locations, though I guess they thought one special sequence would be enough. It wasn't just popular TV shows Channel 5 acquired, they also showed a variety of movies, so it seems fitting that we look at the corresponding ident for the movie strand.
Now it seems a paroled man is out for revenge on those who put him away in the thriller Mary Higgins Clark's Try to Remember.
Now, come on, this is pretty cool. We are treated to an animated sequence set in a city, and right from the get-go, the homage to classic movie tropes are off the scale. We see a getaway car fleeing from a bank, a car chase, a superhero, I could go on and on. Honestly, pay close attention to any second from this ident, and you'll see something that links with a particular genre or film littered within. Some may argue that this is a little corny as a result, but I think it works wonderfully. The sheer abundance of things to look at, the constant stimulus, it really gets you alert and ready to watch whatever movie is about to air. And by showcasing images and objects that link to different kinds of movies, it works across the board. The music as well is fantastic. It sounds akin to the Incredibles soundtrack actually, now that I think about it. But it feels old school, yet fresh. It feels exciting and tense. It really helps drag your attention towards the television and to whatever movie awaits you. Films have always primarily been a form of escapism, and so an ident specifically designed to reflect that should bear that in mind. And I couldn't be happier with how Channel 5 have executed the concept. Definitely one of, if not the best from the 2007 set, and one of their all-time best if you ask me. Away from the movies though, we'll finish off by taking a look at the festive offering from 2007.
A Christmassy romantic drama for your Monday afternoon on 5 with our first movie, A Chance of Snow, at 1:40. But now we're cooking the books with Jeremy Edwards.
I'm genuinely quite mixed on this one. First of all, with any festive ident, the question should be, does it communicate across the spirit of the season? And I would say yes. There's enough of the iconography, such as snowflakes, candles and glamorous lights, combined with a score that evokes Christmas to an extent, though I feel for the visuals we get, the music could have been a tad more traditional in terms of the sounds used. I like the idea of the 5 logo traversing through this constantly changing landscape, rather than just one static image. However, there are moments where, yet again, I find its presence to be too fleeting or too obstructed by everything else going on. I think this is one primary reason why I prefer Channel 5 adopting a number for its logo. There's less chance it can get lost in the fray of things, and is more easy to stand out as opposed to it being spelt out. Overall though, this is a decent Christmas ident, but not one of the best. It has a nice concept and some nice ideas and execution, but it just doesn't feel as cohesive as some of its contemporaries. So, how did the 2007 idents for Channel 5 stack up overall? I would say it's a mixed bag, but I think ultimately it does lean more positively. Given that this was the last batch of idents to hit the channel before another rebrand in 2008, they don't finish this era with a bang, but certainly give it enough of a strong showing to be proud of. The various scenarios and situations we're presented with range from baffling to beautiful. My favourites have to be Beach for one, just the relatability and simplicity in how it's presented make it truly breathtaking in parts. The 5 movies ident also stands out as a big winner, paying a perfect homage to the movie world with enough nods to keep any fan re-watching to see what they could spot next. They weren't all winners, we've pointed that out enough, but it does show the interesting place that Channel 5 was at. 10 years into its lifespan through trials and tribulations, yet it stood amongst its older rivals and was able to carve out a loyal audience all its own. And a key step in doing that for any channel is undoubtedly within the presentation. And whilst not perfect, the 2007 idents give an intriguing look into what Channel 5 wanted to be, and the different ways it wanted to present that to the viewing public. Thank you all so much for watching this episode of the Ident Review. If you enjoyed it, please remember to like the video, subscribe to us here at AMTV, and let me know your thoughts on the idents we've looked at today in the comments down below. Until the next time, see you later. Thank you to our patrons for helping to support the show, and a special thank you to Macra, Ethan Carberry-Holt, Bruce Danton, Globe of Reviews, Derek Chambers, Sean Knock, Dord Khan, Liam Demain, Trev Hughes, AJ Mac 200017, Deck KP20, Simon Harrison, Evan Hart 41, Jen, Ted Elliott, Tim Ripley, Mr. Eurovision 1986, and Robert Oliphant, our AMTV staff members.